Game over.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy middle of the week. Now, I have a habit of bringing topics up and not actually, following through on them, like on my last video. First, I made a mistake. The victim wasn't named Jake. His name was Henry. Oh, fuck. Damn. Henry Novak, sorry. And also, I didn't follow through with, the whole hate brigade against Asmongold. So, forgive me for my chaotic ways, my chaotic Gormagala ways, because, I got to talk about the big dog, the big man, the the biggest figure on the internet. You know, Hassan only can wish he can be this big and relevant and liked and popular and not artificial. Because we gotta talk about the whole quasi race war that they're throwing against them, right? So as I brought up in my last video, there's just random ass YouTubers coming out saying that Asmund Gold is saying some racist shit, which he's not. His words are taking out of been being taken out of context. Clearly so. And it's almost as if his editors found the video so scathing, it's hard to defend. So, in the case of this anti-black rhetoric, right? As unjustifiable as it seems at first glance, he just provided, or his editors provided a video that was showing this 14-year-old girl physically assaulting her teacher because her teacher was telling her that she's getting an ISS, in school suspension. I've never heard of this before. Gets physical with the teacher and then literally tries to play it off like nothing ever happened. And this goes into the fear that I have, plays into the fear that I have about having kids and raising kids and taking them to the public school institution, because there's no safeguard for them against kids like this. Teachers have no tools at their disposal. Honestly, I would think in our school situation, this would garnish an instant suspension, and also the cops would take them away and arrest them, which is what happened, because they escalated to that, right? But it's also the standoffish nature of not only this individual, the young girl, but also her parent, the mother who was called, and the teacher was speaking concern to her about your kid is just physically attacking other teachers. This is pretty serious. And then the mother's just trying to write it off as if the teachers are at fault and shit. Nightmare fuel. And then it made me think about something. And I was gonna name the video this, but I feel as if it's just gonna come off in poor taste. So back in the day, there were these videos about I guess there were the George Soros, Klaus Schwab, globalist funded, propaganda agenda to get people to own nothing and be happy about it. Or a specific class of people, they're going for the middle class, as I hinted at in the previous video. So to add to this, there was this creation that was coming out. I think it's actually in the UK, or maybe it's just the guy who's making it is British or some shit like that, and it's just okay, whatever. And it's called Conquer. Yeah, that's right. It's a Conquer living pod, a living, you know, small-ish but sort of big pod. It's nicer than those houses that people build artificially, those square, house construct thingies that just Legos and shit. They come pre-packaged. No, it's even it's a fancier but more dystopian version of it, and it's the craziest shit, at least to me, in this whole advertisement as he's trying to push this thing, was he's talking about how once your kids grow up and outlive their conkers, they can move their own conkers away and shit. So it's like it seems actually kind of cool in concept to have like a house with as much square feet as you want, because initially all you have to do is just like buy the lot and like whatever. How many like you probably have like 4 to 9 square feet, square, conkers in a row, 9 conkers in a row. And then like you add from it all the way up into the air. Obviously that's not going to be the case, and it's just going to be like a zoning violation. People are going to be like, you can only have so many conkers attached, and you can only do so much with it and put so much inside and stuff. So like as much as like a futuristic concept, like if you're thinking in the Subnautica sense, no, it's not like it's not going to work out that way. And I thought about like how cruel this kind of like living was until I realized it. Like holy shit. No, this was a prediction. This isn't like um well it is. Make no mistake, the class system that these people are very much garnishing and trying to hide behind is what they're using to they're saying it's good for the environment. You gotta live in this conker pod, this living pod, and it's good for the environment because you take up less space, and it's just like you can like reuse it, give your conkers away, and like attach conkers to it, so you have like a multi like room apartment. Imagine some idiot decides to just like keep stacking them on top of each other, and then eventually just all fall down and crash. He's just being a dumbass. I thought about it for like the longest time, and then I realized something: permanence, right? Because okay, eventually everybody's gonna get bankrupt, and they're going to lose their businesses because they can't house refugees, they can't house rapefugees, whatever you want to fucking call them, right? Like these fucking retards coming over trying to like pretend, oh, I want a better life, and then like a couple months and a couple weeks later they're just like on the news and shit, or maybe the news is just like trying to downplay it and shit. And it's just so common and so often that like why am I even like contemplating this kind of lifestyle for me? It was obviously for the working class. It was obviously for them to come in to replace the working class. The wages are garnished so fucking low because you could imagine, like think about it preemptively from their point of view, these bourgeoisie as they're called, right? They're probably thinking to themselves, okay, we got to fix this problem now. So by the time they get here, it's going to be like, impossible for them to move into our areas. It's just like too much affluence, too wealthy. We're too investing in all this stuff. We're like doing crypto, like, mining, doing all this, like, stuff on the stock market and shit. We don't want these fuckers around here. Like, leave them with the other people in the middle class and shit. And, like, when you think about it, that does make a lot of sense because like once you start having like the dissolution of the middle class, like the upper middle class into the middle class into like the lower class, lower income class, whatever, lower income bracket, then you start having people accepting like complacency. Like the when you think about the conquer, right, it's kind of like an analogy or a parallel to how East Asians live, right? And I'm not saying like all East Asians live like this. I'm just saying that like their way of life, where if you were to take a bag of cereal or like chips or like just any normal packaged food and compare them side to side, like their portions are significantly smaller. Their like living quarters is significantly smaller. They have to like not all of them. I'm just saying like a lot of them have to be polite in public, or else there's like hardcore capital punishment for them like speaking out or like playing loud music or whatever. They get tickets and fines, and like it's pretty severe. So imagine being pushed into that kind of a lifestyle because of an artificial working class, coming from the third world, who are de facto actually kind of used to this kind of thing. And they border these like richer neighborhoods. So it's like I guess like okay, nobody's gonna get this. District 9. I don't know if people will get that reference. Maybe not. Okay, so it's more like a Scarface thing where you have like the people who are brought in and they have this like little ghetto for them to live in, and they just like live in this like concentration camp or whatever. It's not a concentration camp. What the fuck is it called again? Refugee camp. There you go. So they live in that like refugee camp. It's like that, except they have like running water and whatever and all that shit. Except their living quarters is just like constantly brought down by the expense of property plus like everybody in that area having like really small pieces of property to live in. And I know this is gonna sound really bad for me saying this, but I thought about like why this would be necessary. And the simple reason is it's to keep people docile, right? Like this little girl, and obviously like she's just probably like a radical case. Like not every single little girl is like that, but it's it's becoming more and more common. Like especially here in Canada, people in these public schools are complaining about these kids just not listening. They don't want to get off the cell phone. They don't want to this. They don't want to that. A lot of them are getting this idea that like certain generations, certain like classes of kids, they can't read, and it's less like one of those. I'm glad that I don't have kids scenario because it's just like can you imagine like a child like that trying to be friends with your kid coming into your house or whatever. It's just no, man. You want to get the fuck away from them because as much as you hate the class system and how it's used to judge people, it's also a necessity to separate them. And since we're also seeing that like you get the monkey's paw, especially with the girls who are like, oh, refugees welcome here, and they're like trying to like force tears out of their fucking soulless bodies and shit. Like cry for them for like fucking absolute strangers and shit, but not the victims of said strangers. And then you like try to like come up with excuses for them. And I realized something. What is permanence? What is something that you do that you can't take away and it's just constantly there forever? So in the case of like, these people who are very much for the refugees, for the people to come here. And like, let's be honest, I was kind of like that in the beginning for like the Syrian, for the FSA and stuff because of the whole, Vice News video about like the child atrocities of Aleppo, which turned out to be pure bullshit because it's just like, a bunch of terrorists capturing Yazidis, aka Christians, and like mutilating their children, pretending that like, oh, Assad, he's like this evil bastard doing it to other children, and it takes like a special kind of fucking demon to do that kind of shit. And now like 9 times out of 10, like actually, I'm almost at like a 99% like belief that like anything that just comes out of there, I'm just gonna like be skeptical about it, just not like believe it because it's just pointless. And here we are at, right? Like, the people who pushed for these refugees to be welcome here and like, constantly, against everybody's wishes, against, all the statistics and all like the crime rates and the rising, bad shit. Like, they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Like, their entire bloodline just been sold the fuck out, right? There's this like consensus that's coming out about the Sikhs having the ability to carry knives in the UK, and it's this rules for thee and not for me type shit that you can't necessarily wish away. So like let's say like this crime whatever gets resolved or unresolved and shit. It doesn't matter because of like what led to the whole escalation was the fact that that guy had the ability to carry a knife and the other guy had nothing on him and literally just like bled the fuck out. So like think about that for a second. Like how threatened do you have to be from a guy where you stab him multiple times even behind the legs and shit. And it's like you also have this property on you. You're fucking robbing them and stuff. And then like you cry the victim, you play the victim. And like when other people see this, it doesn't matter whether they're like, for or against the religion. They just know that that kind of treatment doesn't breed equality. It breeds cowardice. And the cowardice is the permanence, is a class, a subhuman class of people that, have to be treated with the special eds treatment, the special needs treatment. Oh, this person's too stupid to understand that knives hurt and kill people. They have to carry it for their ceremonial fucking retard ass reasons and shit. And no fucking reason is justifiable for that. It's just like a coward's way out. Like them being able to do something that like is semi-legal or illegal for like most other people, but they can do it. Meanwhile, they're trying to like hide the fucking murder weapon and shit, wash the blood off of it, all that shit. Mom probably took it home and like cleaned it, but like you have to really think about the permanence of that, like the bloodline that those people have and like, how they're gonna carry on in life, knowing that so many people have to die for their fucking retard ass race. And they're not alone. Like, the human trash and waste that we all have to endure and, say diversity is our strength and not all this and not all that is not a burden that we should have to bear. Like, even the ones who are part of this ethnicity, this background, have no right to tell us we have to endure it because they are also responsible for it arbitrarily, because it also reinforces the idea to brain drain these countries, their countries of origin, by just having them flood over here and stay here and like wave their flags and like rally for their causes, which ultimately don't have anything to do with the local population. Like, do you think, oh, like, well, actually, I gotta be honest with you. People like my culture a lot more than they like their culture because not only is it more understandable and shit, it's more of an open culture and shit, right? And I'm beginning to see this observation with like a lot of Pakis and stuff, and like even some East Indians, where you can tell that they've had like that past, um, whatever you want to call it, like the insecurities, the I will call it self disassociation, like a disassociation with your own race. So like with the skin bleach and shit, you'll be able to see it all over their face, but they have the rings around their eyes. And as everybody gets older, right, like the skin around your body gets like thickens or gets wrinkly and more you know old looking dark and stuff, like dark rings around the eyes. But like for them it's just so dark because of like the previous skin color. So you see them like they look like fucking raccoons and shit, and it's just like the permanence of like not being proud of yourself, not living within your own skin and shit, not being, and like I was too ashamed of it too because it's like all the East Indians always made me feel extremely insecure about that, about being dark skinned. They used to call me monkey face. They used to call me like a lot of fucking shit. Used to treat me like shit all the time too. And the comeuppance that they've had to like deal with everybody finding out about their culture, about like how they are, and like obviously like not everybody who's part of their culture is like that, but like you have to understand something. Well, like when it comes to the whole permanence of like actions that people do, like there is a way out, and that is through the aesthetics, through the beauty, through the mind body connection, which I'm so desperately trying to achieve. And I'm like I gotta be perfectly honest and level with people, and I'm a little ashamed to say this, but I think given my channel content, like I think I need to be open about this. I go back and forth with it, right? Like I don't feel proud about it, but I also know that it's a necessity to be proud of it, if that makes sense. So what I'm talking about is my parents, the gifts of my mother that were given to me genetically, and how I feel like I have to necessitate not only the advertisement with my flamboyant femininity, but um, just for the sake of like, what if and what can be given to my children potentially genetically from me, right? So by advertising, like girls tend to see like because the girls like girls, right? The daughters that they could have by looking at you because of how genetically speaking, you know, the mothers, uh, like the sons look at their mothers, the daughters tend to look like their fathers and stuff. Tend to, right? So that's one way, and the other way is like there is a way out from this. There is a way out from like a dead end, a type of like way of raising your kids where they're just going to be bad people growing up, hurting other people eventually. Absentee from responsibilities and self ridicule because everybody else is always at fault. Everybody else is the problem. Everybody else is just this cockroach infested, middle class working, like living in the same dingy house. You gotta move up. You gotta live in a better house. And you feel as if like that insecurity that they have because of it stems from the fact that like they just want money endlessly and needlessly. And the fact that they can't have it and the people who can, like it's almost like they feel as if it's undeserved and shit, right? Like I feel that, and I could be wrong about saying this, and I don't speak for him, but I feel as if PewDiePie, him making that YouTube account and like being as successful as he was, and I don't think he's a bad guy for doing that, or like I have anything against him for doing that, but it created a world where people wanted what he had, and they were just so desperate about it that like it wasn't there anymore. It wasn't there, at least in the form that it was, like the innocence of it, and like getting all that money, and then the whole. And it's ironic that he himself was the one where he contributed to the whole adpocalypse with him rocking the N word and shit. It's kind of funny how like he basically kicked the ladder from underneath his feet. If you think about it like that. Like, yo, I'm gonna make all this money off of advertisement, right? Then he's just gonna rock the N-word, and the advertiser's just like, oh no, man, gotta pull out. You can't be rocking that N-word no more. Ah, shit, man. And then like, everybody's just like, honestly, I was also about to be guilty of this myself about pushing products. But like I was gonna do it on Instagram, so that's my excuse. But like I feel as if like it's so, and this is my personal opinion. Obviously, like I could be wrong about this. My personal opinion is it's so conceptually like bleak to be pushing ads on YouTube where a commercial entity and the individual lines are blurred. So it's just like you know you kind of want the world to have a greater range of freedom. Design video games, work out, but sometimes people just have to get in the pod, get in the small living quarters, and obey the rules for their own good and for the good of everybody. As bleak as it sounds, as sad as it is, it's unfortunately true.